Hello everyone, welcome to IO Extended UK and Ireland. So today you might ask what's IO Extended. IO Extended is organized by the Google developer groups, and you might not know what the Google developer groups are. So we've got a quick presentation for you to find all about it.
Technology brings us closer together, even when we're far apart. Google developer groups host meetup events for local technologists to connect, learn, and grow with others in their area.
The project I'm mostly proud of would be teaching introduction to programming to 7 girls in my hometown.
In the GDJ, I used to attend various workshops, like it was on Firebase, Android, Cloud. Everyone is learning from someone else.
We started to meet twice a week for a long time, learning Google Cloud. Amazing experience.
After joining Accenture as a software engineer, I started to share my journey in Medium, podcasts, and talks at online bootcamps.
My talk inspired one of community members a lot. So I mentored him to start his latter path. And 1 year later, at the same conference, he was giving a talk at the same stage.
One member of our community moved from being a DJ at our event to a developer in the first leading bank in the country.
When we do events that impact a lot of people, we are bringing opportunity to our region. So a lot of investors, a lot of startups, they will start to see opportunities here.
Oops, sorry, I was muted. Cool. So Google developer groups are local, online, and in-person meetups for developers to connect, basically. So, sorry, I can't see the slides. So it's a global community that prides itself on being inclusive environment. So everyone and anyone that's interested in tech, from beginner developers all the way to experienced professionals, are welcome to join us. The Google Developer Groups is a developer community program that is supported by Google and also the Google developers. So today's event is the IO Extended, and Mark is going to talk to you about it.
Okay, so IO Extended, what it is. So IO Extended events are organized by Google developer groups across the world as a follow-up to the main Google I/O event, which happens annually. So just in case if you miss the Google I/O event, you will get catch the glimpse and the interesting topics on Google I/O Extended. So today, 17 Google developer groups, 1 developer student club, and 1 developer SRE group in the UK and Ireland are working together to organize this particular event. So now there'll be 9 tracks over 3 nights. So yesterday was the first day. So today is the second day where we have 3 tracks running. So now with 3 tracks happening each night, if you need to catch up on any other track or you want to shift to another talk, what you can do is you can simply watch the other broadcast on the same YouTube channel where you are currently seeing this broadcast. And just to tell you, you are currently on the best track. Over to you, Christoph.
Thank you. So a bit of housekeeping for tonight. First of all, your host for today is myself, Christos Koulimasis from the Google Developer Groups in Leeds. And we've got also Mark.
Hey,
you wanna? Yeah.
I'm Mark Kende, and I'm one of the leads in BDG Glasgow. And excited to host you guys through this today.
Perfect. So next bit of the housekeeping is our code of conduct. I would like you to familiarize yourself with it. You can find it on this website here, so make sure you have a quick look. So moving on to the agenda for tonight, we've got 3 talks, 3 30-minute talks, and at the end we've got a bit of wrap-up and maybe a bit of Q&A. So let's start with, first of all, be social and share your experience, and you can use the Google I/O extended UKI hashtag to post. Make sure that you also ask questions on the comments on the stream if you have any questions. That's how, and we can share it with the speakers. So let's start with our first speaker. So our first speaker is Anuradha, and she's gonna talk to us about decoding web accessibility through audit. So let me stop sharing.
Hey, welcome, Anuradha.
Hi,
Hello.
hi everyone. Thanks, Christos and Markandeya.
Thanks for joining us today, and
Thank you.
I'll just hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm trying to share the screen. Let me know once it's visible.
Can see it now. Yep, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Christos. So, yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Anuradha Kumari, and today I will be talking about how we can decode web accessibility through auditing. So, let's start. Before we start, a little bit of introduction about myself. I'm working as a front-end consultant at Passionate People. I'm also a media developer expert with Cloudinary. I'm an accessibility advocate. I talk a lot about accessibility. So if you would like to talk to me or discuss anything about accessibility or tech in general, you can connect with me on LinkedIn at Anuradha15 or on Twitter at miracle_404. So let's get started. The topics which we will be covering today. So we will start with introduction to accessibility and we will see why it is important. And then we will see some of the different ways in which we can audit our websites for accessibility. We will also see some of the tools which will help us while auditing and some tips on how we can do that. So to start off, first of all, introduction of accessibility. So accessibility, which is also neuronymed as A11Y. So where 11 is the number of letters between A and Y in the word accessibility. It means making resources and services usable by everyone, regardless of their ability or disability. Why should we care about accessibility? This is because whatever we are building it for the users, our websites, applications, everything. We do not know what our users could be going through, how they are using our websites, what issues they might be having, what disabilities, if any, they could be having. So we don't know anything about it. So we need to make sure that whatever we are creating it in a way that it is accessible to everyone. There are multiple different types of disabilities, and hence there are different types of assistive technologies as well. So there are different types of ways in which the user might be interacting with our applications and websites. We will see some of them in today's talk. And since there are multiple assistive technologies, so we need to make sure that whatever content we are creating, that is compatible to all of them and that can be accessed properly via all different types of assistive technologies like keyboard, screen readers, switch, screen magnifiers, etc. Also, the most important reason is web actually is accessible by default, but when we use wrong coding conventions, wrong kind of designing and do not do proper testing, then we make the web inaccessible. Everything which is there, all the guidelines, they are to create an accessible web, but what we do not really create in a proper way, we do not code in a proper way, and hence we lead to making the web inaccessible. Hence it's our responsibility so that we code, test and design properly and make web more accessible. As per WHO or World Health Organization, 15% of the total world's population, they live with some form of disability. Now this 15% translates to around 1 billion people, and this is a lot of people, and we need to care about them and make sure that they can also access our websites and applications in a proper way. They can also understand things. There are different types of disabilities, mainly categorized into visual, auditory, motor, and cognitive. Now, they are also further categorized into like permanent disabilities, temporary disabilities, and situation disabilities. And it is told that all of us, like almost 100% of the world's population, we might face some sort of situational disability in someday in our lives. So I'll give you an example. Let's say if you are talking about visual, then if a person is born blind, so it could be permanent disability. Then there could be a situation that they might have any infection in their eyes, or maybe some operation happened or something, so they are not able to see for some time. That could be temporary disability. Then situation disability could be, let's say you are in a very bright environment and you are not able to see the content on your screen. So you can see totally fine, but still you are not able to see content because it's quite bright. So that is situational disability. Now this happens to all of different categories, and hence it said that any people can face situational disability at any point in their time in their life. When we talk about accessibility, accessibility is about helping people with disabilities. It's also beyond that. It also helps different peoples, like the person might be facing some technical issues, they are on slow connection. Then also it helps if they are on smaller devices. What if they are using our websites on mobile? Then responsiveness is also one type of accessibility. If we are creating responsive websites, then a person who is using it on a smaller device, they also will be able to understand the content properly and navigate via it properly, right? Then there could be different situations. We already talked about brighter environment. There could also be, let's say, a very classic example of accessibility feature, which almost every one of us use, is using closed captions. Sorry. Also, if there is a YouTube video and then if there are captions there, then even if I can hear totally fine, still if I'm in a noisy environment, I won't be able to hear it properly. If there are closed captions there, then I can understand the content. Also, if you are trying to listen to an video, or trying to see a video which is in different language, which you do not understand, in that case also closed captions really help. So this is a very classic example of accessibility which helps everyone. Then there could be progressive issues, like I might be hearing totally fine and seeing things totally fine. My sight is totally fine today, but as my age will proceed, I might have issues with my sight. It starts decreasing. My hearing capabilities could start decreasing, and so I might need to use the accessibility features. So accessibility helps everyone. It benefits everyone. So for accessibility, there are various different guidelines and principles, official documents by W3C, and they are called WCAG, which is Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Now these guidelines, it's a lot. So there is official website where you can go and read. I have put the description in this slide later, and I will be sharing this slide to you in the end, so you can definitely go through the link. But what I want to talk today is all those guidelines. They are divided into 4 different principles, and these are acronymed as POUR. So here POUR means P stands for perceivable. Now, perceivable means that whatever we are creating, the user should be able to perceive it via any of their senses. So if they can see, they can see and understand what is there on our website. If they cannot see, maybe they are just relying on screen reader, so they should be able to hear what is there on the screen and perceive that, okay, this is what this means, like maybe this is a button or this is a link, and so on. O understands for operable. Now that I have perceived that what it on the screen, I should be able to operate on it. So let's say there are 4 buttons on the website. So I should be able to just use assistive technology. So for example, today we will focus mainly on keyboard and screen reader, a combination of these. So I should be able to use my keyboard only and go to those buttons and operate them. And operate them, it means that trigger the action which is meant to happen when you click on that button. So you should be able to operate on it via keyboard as well, because the people who use a screen reader, they are mostly using a device similar to keyboard, a keyboard or a similar device. Then U is for understandable. Understandable means that whatever thing is there on my website, it should be easily understandable or understandable by our users. So for example, you can take example of forms. If there are forms on my website and there are, let's say, 5 or 10 inputs there which user has to fill. Now if we will not properly label them, the user will not be able to understand what they have to fill in those inputs, right? So to make it understandable, we should label them properly. So this is what is meant by understandable. And then R stands for robust. Robust means there are multiple type of user agents, multiple type of assistive technologies. Whatever we are creating, it should be robust enough that it is navigable and understandable by all these different types of technologies. So it supports those technologies. So it should be robust. So we have covered the introduction of accessibility and some of the guidelines and how to perceive anything. So if there is any requirement, how can we pour accessibility into it, kind of thing. So let's see now how can we audit for accessibility. There are multiple ways and multiple levels in which we can audit. So the first one is using keyboard. So just skip your mouse. Do not use it. If possible, unplug your mouse and try to navigate your website only via keyboard and see what happens. So that would be the first step which we can all do. Then use screen readers. So using a screen reader is important because it really lets us know what are different gaps in our websites, which could otherwise not, we won't be able to catch it, right? Then there are different browser extensions and tools which are there to help us to understand about accessibility, to check for accessibility errors in the websites and applications and then fix those. So we will see some of these today. And then there are automated tools. There are CLI tools as well, which we can use, and we can take help of power of automation in order to audit for accessibility. So the first one is using keyboard. When we are using keyboard, what should we focus on? Like, what should we test for? So the first thing is that if the user is navigating our website via keyboard, they should be able to reach to all the interactive elements on our website. So what do I mean by interactive elements? All the buttons, anchor tags like links. If there are inputs like text inputs, password fields, text area, drop downs. These are all different types of interactive elements. So if there are interactive elements like this, users should be able to just use their keyboard, like tap, tap, tap on it and reach all of those interactive elements. Also, they should not only reach those elements, they should also act on it. So if there is a button, they should be able to trigger the action on that button only using the keyboard. Also, when there are multiple, let's say there are 6 links in a row, and I'm trying to use tab, tab, tab via keyboard to go through all these links. So are the focus visible? So focus ring is basically a ring, black or blue colored ring outside all your interactive elements. So whenever you tab on it, it shows you that this is the current active element. We will see all of these in example just in a while. So focus ring is that thing. So it should be visible because it provides visible feedback to the user that where they are currently. And then skip to main link, or skip to navigation link. So this is a very important part because sometimes we have a huge navigation, lots of links, but what if the user just wants to go to home page and read maybe a small article or something which is there. So in that case, they will, if they are using just keyboard, and so they will tap, 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 and they have to tap through all of those extra things before going to the main content. So in that case, we can provide a skip to main link so that they can directly skip those different navigation and go directly to the main part of the code. And some more manual checks which we can do are color contrast. So whatever color combination do we use, is it proper? So are the whatever is on our website, it is readable properly? All these things, they come into color contrast. So is it proper? We have different color contrast tools which we can use to test for color contrast. Then if we have media, like if we have audios on our websites or maybe our podcast, then we should have a transcript for it, so that a person who is unable to hear at the moment, they can still read it and understand what is there in the audio. Similar for video, we should have closed captions for our videos. Some of the important keys which users use on our keyboard. So they use tab to go through all the interactive elements, shift tab to go backward to all the interactive elements. They can press enter to trigger any interactive element action. And a button are specific cases where the user can also press space bar and the action should get triggered on the button. And then they, if there is some like maybe carousel or something, they should be able to use the arrow keys and able to navigate via those. And if there are any pop-ups on our website, they should be closed via if they click escape button. So if they press escape button, it should get closed. So these are some of the important keys which we as users use whenever we are on any websites. Let's see demo. So I have this website here called flipkart.com. I chose it because it is very less accessible. So it was a nice example for me to show you all. So I'm trying. Yeah, sorry. So I will try to use just keyboard here and I will show you what I mean. So I'm at the search bar. Maybe I navigated to this website and I will press my tab keys now to try to go to all of these different, links and buttons. So I press tab for the first time. Nothing happened. So you can't see anything. So if you are pressing tab and you are not able to see the focus, you don't know where you are on this website. So it's like user getting lost. I press tab again, nothing happened. I press tab again, third time, nothing happened. Fourth tab, and now it comes to this search bar, and I can know that it's here because of the cursor which is shown on the search bar, and also because this pop-up opened up. I press tab again. So if you can notice, there is this black focus ring around this search icon. So this is what I mean when I say that they should be focusable, so that we get to know that where we are, because without that we don't know where we are. So what do we act upon? We don't know what will happen if I press enter or space bar, right? I press tab again, it's gone. So focus is not there. I'm trying tapping through all these things, but I don't know where I am. So yeah, I won't be able to just navigate to this website via keyboard. So this is the important thing which I wanted to say. And also I'm going to show you a very good example. So it's a UK government website. Government websites are supposed to be accessible, so they are comparatively more accessible than other websites which I have found. So I am pressing tab again. If you see, there is something called skip to main content. If I press enter, it skips all of these links and it directly came here. And also because there are 4 links here, it also provides a different skip link, so which you can use. And now I'm pressing tab and you can see all the links where I'm visiting, it has a different styling. So I know exactly where I am and how I can trigger these. So this is a very nice example. Even if you don't want to so this also shows that outline doesn't have to be boring. So if you are removing it, so the main code culprit here is we write in our code outline : none. So in styling, what we do, we go ahead and hide all the outlines, and we are like, yay, that ugly focus ring is no longer there on our website, but it makes our users lost. So never do that. If you want, you can definitely style your outlines or style your element in a way that when focus comes there, it gets shown in a different beautiful way. So this is the way to go. Do not hide the outline. Always try to have some sort of styling which lets the user know, they give them feedback that where they are currently. So yeah, this is an example. Let's see. Let's move ahead. Screen readers and voiceovers. So let's see. There are multiple screen readers available, and there is one, almost at least one for all the different platforms and OS. Like for Windows, there is NVDA, which is kind of free and which I will use today to demo. And then for Mac, there is a voiceover utility. There is also JAWS paid, we have Orca in Linux, and then for on Android we have on Android Accessibility Suite. There's also one for iPhone. So almost every one of your devices will have these screen reader or voice over facilities. Now, before you get started with screen readers, so this is little complicated if you are getting started, because once it starts you might get overwhelmed. So I always, whenever I talk about this, I say that first read about it, whichever screen reader you are planning to use for testing. Read about it and understand that how the different shortcuts work, how that screen reader will work, what are the different ways in which user navigate. Because when users are using screen readers, they don't only aimlessly go on tabbing it and trying to listen what is there. They also have to read content and navigate. So they use different type of things. They navigate only via landmarks or only via links, images. They go from header to header sometimes. So there are different shortcuts for all different things, so that if you are trying to just navigate to headers, you can use that shortcut. If you are trying to navigate only via links, you can use a different shortcut, and so on. So the screen reader users are well versed with this. So whenever we are testing, we should also read first, so that we don't get lost, and we try to test it just the way user will use it. So what should we test for when, let's say, we are testing with screen readers? So the first thing is which we need to test is landmarks. Landmarks means like giving your different types of reasons a name. In HTML5, there is a header which will tell you that, okay, this is a header reason. Then there is a main reason, there are navigation, then there is a footer, a site, all of these different things. So you can name your reasons, so that let's say I as a user come to the website and I want only to navigate to the headers to know that what are different types of headers. I should be able to do that via landmarks. Then all description for images. So screen readers, if a person is using a screen reader, most probably they would be facing some difficulty while while seeing. So they might have some sight disability. So for them, if we are having images on our website, we must have alt description for that. So what alternative description will do, that it will describe the image to the users. So but we don't have to aimlessly go ahead and add alt to all the images. There are different types of images. Like some images are purely decorative, like we put them there just for beautifying our website, but we have proper information as text as well. So if we have something like maybe images and then information as text below it, then we do not need to add any text to alt description. We can have empty string in alt of image tag. But if our image has like, user should understand what an image is in order to understand the content on our website. In that case, we need to add that proper description to the alt property of the image tag. Then forms, if there are forms, they should have labels. So every input should have labels, so that the users understand that what they have to fill in that box, like its email, first name, last name, age, and so on. The links should be descriptive. So if there are links, sometimes what we do, we have icons, and when you click on it, let's select Twitter icon. I have Twitter icon, GitHub icon, LinkedIn icon, and when you click on it, we navigate it to that Twitter link. But a person who cannot see, who is just relying totally on screen reader, what the screen reader pronounces to them in order to understand the content. So if I don't have any label for that anchor, so they won't be able to understand. For them, it's just an image or just an icon, so they will be lost. So we should have some description for links as well. Dynamic changes. So let's say I'm filling a form. Now when you submit a form, something happens and then a response comes back. Then we show to the users if the form succeeded, or if the that form submissions succeeded or failed. Now this information, if I can see that message there, and I can understand that, okay, my form was submitted successfully or it failed, there are some errors and so on. But if the person is just using a screen reader, how will they know? We have to announce that dynamic change which happened. We have to announce it to the user, so the user knows that, okay, successful, or okay, there are these errors, so now I need to go ahead and fix these errors. So also all the contents and operations, so whatever we have buttons and links, like what they intend to do, it should be understandable by the user. So when we test via screen readers, we get to hear, right? So we get that feedback. So we need to analyze it and understand if that will be understandable by user or not. Let's see a demo. So this might speak a lot, so maybe let me go to Amazon. I'm firing up my NVDA, which is screen reader.
Welcome to Amazon.com. Spend less. Smile more. Google Chrome. Amazon.com. Spend less. Gamer Ascent.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to use this website via just my screen reader. Let's see how it interacts with the elements and what it pronounces to the user. So we get to know, we understand that how it will read it to the user and what are the different gaps. So for simplicity today, I'm just trying to tab on it and go through things. But yeah, there are different ways in which we can navigate.
Toolbar. Address and search bar edit has autocomplete control. Amazon.com. Spend less. Banner landmark navigation landmark Amazon link. Clickable deliver to India.
So I know that, okay, this is a clickable link or button and the text is delivered to India.
Search landmark. Search in combo box, all departments collapse. Select the department you want to search in.
So I know that I want to search. So let's say I want to search for something. I press enter.
Expanded. List. All departments 1 of 28.
Yeah, so it also gives me a number of links which are there, so I can navigate via. Now I'm trying to use arrow keys so that I want to go to different things. Let's say I want to search for books, so I will go to everything and see where it pronounces book.
Arts and automotive 3, baby 4, beauty and book 6 of 28. Search edit blank.
So it now I know I have selected book, so I can search for it. So maybe I can.
What space?
Accessibility design.
Accessibility design. Amazon.com. Accessibility design. Clickable skip to main content. Banner landmark navigation landmark link Amazon. Clickable banner landmark search edit. Amazon. Choose a language. Hello 0. Get inclusive design for a digital world. Designing with accessibility in mind. Design thinking.
This is now going through all the things. And
inclusive design for a digital world. Designing with accessibility. Rajin M. Gilbert link.
So I'm trying to show you like how it will pronounce or interact with every element. So now let's see the next one, what it pronounces.
4.5 out of 5 stars link.
So I know that, okay, there were stars and it got 4.5 stars.
54 link.
But this 54 is different. So if it would have been, together, I would better understand that, okay, 54 people have rated it. For now, 54, when it is pronounced separately, it makes no much sense to me. Let's see how this, paperback price is pronounced, because here what I can see is there is a price which is the current price, and there is also a price which is striked off. It means that it was a previous price, but now it is 25.49. But let's see how it gets pronounced.
Paper $25.49, $34.99 link.
Yeah, so if you if you were just using a screen reader to come here, you wouldn't know, like $25.49, $34.99. so what does it mean? There are $2 things, but I don't know which is the current price, which is the later price. So links should be more descriptive. So this is also one of the example where I am not understanding what it is saying. So it needs to be more descriptive, like current price 25.49, something like that.
23 used and new offers. Link.
Yeah, so these are different links in which it goes and it reads. Now let's see.
Include online shopping site for mobiles, electronics, furniture, grocery, livestock, tool, dev tools. Online shopping, alt. Explore, search, clickable login link, cart link. Mobiles graphic, mobiles link. Fashion graphic, electronics graphic,
so
electronics
this is how,
link.
the images will be pronounced. So if I don't have alt for it, then it will just pronounce graphics. And so if I was relying only on images, I wouldn't know what it is. So
Alt.
this is it. Let me
Note,
stop.
and exit and OK.
Okay, so we have seen a small demo. There is lots more to screen reader, but we managed to see small how we can navigate via screen reader and how it pronounces stuff to the user. Let's go to our next section. So let's see about browser tools and extensions. There are multiple browser tools and extensions. I have listed some of the ones which are popular and which generally I use. So the first one is Lighthouse. It is by default in our DevTools. So I am in my Chrome website, and in my DevTools. Okay. So this is a DevTools. So how you can open a DevTools is you just right click on your website anywhere and you say inspect, or you use the keys Control+Shift+I. So this DevTools gets opened up, and what we can do here is you have to go to the Lighthouse tab. So Lighthouse tab is there by default in the DevTools, and there are different categories. We have to select accessibility, and in device options, select desktop. Then there's this button to generate the report. Go ahead and generate the report. What it will do, it will reload the website and try to audit this website and list different issues with accessibility. So now I have sometime it takes time whenever I am demoing, so I have already audited. Okay, it came, so this is fine. So you can see there is a ring which shows you a number of accessibility. Now this number does not show the exact accessibility score because it is just an automated test, and all these automated tests, they only account for 30 to 40% of total accessibility issues. So it's good to have this score as 100, but having a score 100 doesn't mean that your website is totally accessible. You still need to do all the manual checks. Even it highlights in the DevTools as well that it's only a subset of issues which can be automatically detected. So test for manual test issues as well, and it gives the list of errors which we have. I'm going to use the Flipkart results because there were like lots of issues. So let's go make it here. Yeah. So the score is 63 here, and if you see it gives very nice information, like there was a button which does not have an accessible name, so it's just icon only. Then there are multiple images on this websites which do not have any alt attribute, so it gives an error. So if you audit via this, you get this. This could be some of the easy wins which you can have, so you can go ahead and properly fix these, and these are definitely very nice wins to have. And it also tells that whatever audits passed for this website, and also some of these audits which were not applicable. And so this is a very nice one. It also gives, I guess, manual check. Yes, there is also a list which tells that these are the things which you need to manually test. This is not covered as part of this automation test. So this is a nice way to audit for any website. So you can even right now go ahead, open up any website and go to Lighthouse and try to run accessibility and see what's the issue and understand why it is. Then there is this Axe extension, which is again Chrome extension. So Lighthouse also works on Axe principles itself in under the hood. So you can install it, and it also comes like Lighthouse here, and you can run accessibility report from there as well. Then there is something called accessibility pane. So this is a very nice one, which when I found, I was like, okay, I never knew about that. So in same DevTools, we use Element as a front-end developer. So if you are a front-end developer, you would be using this Elements tab a lot to check for different elements. But in this Elements tab, there are different panes like styles. We most probably use styles to style our website. There is the last option as accessibility. This is a very nice thing because it shows you the accessibility tree of your website. So this thing, accessibility tree, this is how assistive technologies interact. So the screen reader rely on this. So this is what is used in elements tab to paint this website. So whatever you see, that depends upon elements and styling here. But whatever the assistive technologies understand depends upon this accessibility tree. So you can go ahead and select any element. So let's say I am selecting this element, and you can see the accessibility tree and information about that element. So it tells you that this is an image, and it has an alt, which is fashion. So it gives you a very nice information. And so if I go to this image, okay, please, yeah, and let me like maybe remove alt totally. Now in image you can see that there is no title or label, so I know that when this will be pronounced, maybe this image won't be have any alt. So this is a very nice way to check for any element and the accessibility information of that element. So like this button just has svg, it has like no name, so that's why it came up in the error as well. So this is a very nice tool which is already there in our website. Then Wave is another extension, and when you install Wave, I have installed Wave in my Chrome website, Chrome browser, and you can see it in extensions list. So for triggering Wave, what you have to do, go to any website, right click and say Wave this page. The option comes in that right click options. When you say Wave this page, it gives very nice information. It gives you error. It also gives something extra which I really like, which is it gives you the structure of your website, like how is the website structured, the landmarks, the headers, footers, link, and these things. This is very nice information. And apart from that, it also contains an inbuilt contrast checker. So I can use this contrast checker to check the contrast of any icon, any part of my website, and see if it passes the web accessibility norms or not. So it's a very nice tool, nice to have to test for accessibility. It gives errors and it also gives you reference. So if I am trying to check for this, I can I guess, yeah, if you click any of the errors, you can get the accessibility guidelines here. You can reference the code, you can read about it, that why is that important or why is that an error. It's a very nice thing. The last one which we will see is No Coffee. Now this No Coffee extension, it was previously on Chrome as well, but somehow they have removed it, but I found it in Firefox. So let me pull up the Firefox. Yeah, so this helps to test for color deficiency and color blindness, which is also a lot very much prevalent in the world. So we need to check if we are having different colors in our websites. We need to see if our information does not only depend upon that. So for that, use this color deficiency thing. And there are different types of options which we can use, like I can use achromatopsia and it shows just black and white, so you can see if it's accessible or not, or the information is understandable or not, if the people with achromatopsia is trying to access our website. So these were some of the tools which we already tested with. Then there are automated tools, so which we can use to test and test our websites with. Like what can we automate is page title. So page title means in every page this is the title, so all different routes should have different titles so that users can understand which page they are currently on. Then the headings, HTML structures, landmarks, ARIA labels. If we have icon only button, then do they have their labels or not? Color contrast can also be automated. Then images, do they have text alternative or not? These things we can automate. Then there are different tools. Today I'm going to talk about Axcore. So Axcore has different types of tools. So there is an Axe CLI as well. Then it also has their extensions with different types. Like Cypress has also a Cypress Axe, which we can use. In Selenium, we have Axe Selenium. So Axe CLI is a very nice tool which we can we don't need any code. We can just use the CLI tool and install it using, so we should have node and npm on our laptop, and then what we can do is we can install Axe CLI globally using npm install -g axe-cli, And then you can fire up the terminal and say X and the URL I want to test. So let's say I want to test this website, explore-a11y.netlify.app, then I can test it via this. It also has very nice commands which we can use. Then today we took a look at different ways in which we can audit for accessibility. So now we have come to the conclusion. So to conclude, I want to say that whenever we are thinking, we should think from user perspective, and we should be testing for accessibility from the very start of our creation of our website. Automation is really nice, but we should always have manual tests, because automation doesn't test all of the accessibility issues. And also we must always test with real users as well, because their feedback is really important. So I want to say in the end that we should be focusing on accessibility just as everything else. And I have one action item for you. So if you understood, if you like this talk, so just pass on the learning and spread the awareness so that everyone works toward creating an inclusive web. These are the resources which you can use to read more about accessibility. And I will be dropping the links in the comment section so that you get to link of all the slides. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Anuradha. That was an interesting and elaborate talk on accessibility. And frankly, being a web developer, I learned a lot of things. I'm sure that our audiences, they would have also got a lot of things to learn.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I will ping the link in the chat, and you can share the slide links. Yes.
Yep, sure, we can. Okay. Thanks for joining us, Anuradha.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up next, we have Sam with us with a very interesting topic, building with new capabilities, Fugu Edit 2.0. Hey, Sam. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, how y'all doing?
All good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, so we can get started.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Richard. I am a developer advocate at Google, working on Chrome OS and the web. You can find me online at Snugug, and I'm here to talk about building with new capabilities. Today, web apps can be built with and enhanced with modern APIs to provide better user experiences and better business outcomes. Even seemingly simple enhancements like preventing the screen from falling asleep with a wake lock can have large effects. Betty Crocker ran a 1-month-long experiment, for instance, testing just that on their recipes, and saw that doing so was one of the top 5 actions their users performed. Users who enabled wake lock had sessions 3.1 times longer than those who didn't, and indicators that they were likely to make a purchase were about 300% higher compared to all their other users. So I want you to take a second and think, what can you do on the web today that you couldn't do 3 years ago? The web is super powerful in its own right today. You can build a hyperlocal video chat app with WebRTC, geolocation, and push messages. You can make that app installable. You can add video effects to it with Wasm. You can even bring it into new realities with WebGL and WebVR. But there's still gaps in what we can solve with the web today. In the worst case, developers are not building for the web, or they're relegating it to a secondary experience. For those that want to build for the web but need more powerful capabilities, they're forced to bundle their web apps in wrappers. For many, this means effectively shipping their own custom browsers, exploding the size of their web apps and forcing them to take on the additional security and maintenance burdens of keeping both their browser fork and their wrapper up to date. They also lose the reach of the web, forcing them to choose what devices and operating systems to support, often requiring different wrappers, all of which further expands their security and maintenance burden. Filling these capability gaps is the key to fixing this and enabling the web to be the software platform of the future like we believe it can be. This is where the Capabilities Project, also known as Project Fugu, comes in. Capabilities Project, also known as Project Fugu, is a cross-company effort to make it possible for web apps to do anything iOS, Android, and desktop apps can, by exposing the capabilities of these platforms to the web while maintaining user privacy, security, trust, and other core tenets of the web. Between Chromium 71 and 81, the Capabilities Project has launched 30 new APIs, including expanded hardware support with WebHID, Web Serial, and WebNFC, deeper OS integration with the File System Access API, a Contact Picker API, and Web Share and Web Share Target. And it is even expanded what installed PWAs are capable of with the Badging API and app shortcuts. To keep up to date with all the work that's being done to ship new capabilities, there's a public tracker, goo.goal/Fugu API tracker. There you can see the status of each API being worked on or considered, where that API is targeted for, links and additional information for each API, search and filter capabilities, and have a timeline view. What if you want to request a new capability? You can file an issue in the Chromium Bug Tracker, or you can go to webwewant.fyi and fill out a form that'll get into the hands of browser vendors. Before launch, there are 2 states that an in-progress API can be in that allow you to test it out. The first is a developer trial, meaning it's behind a feature flag. The API isn't necessarily stable, and it shouldn't be implemented for real users. The second, though, is called an origin trial, and those are stable enough to implement for your users. Origin trials allow you to try out new features and give feedback on usability, practicality, and effectiveness to the web standards community. APIs available under origin trial systems are experimental and may become unavailable, including not extending beyond the experiment, and may be unavailable for some time even if it is eventually enabled for all users. So where possible, if you're going to use them, you should feature detect them or gracefully degrade should the implementation be unavailable. They're stable enough to be used with real users though, even though they may change over the course of the trial. They are limited across all users globally to ensure that they don't become a de facto standard. So it's recommended you activate it for a subset of your users. And it's limited to the browser vendor where the origin trial has started. So a Chrome origin trial, for instance, won't work in Safari, Firefox, or Edge. If these requirements are okay with you, then you can register an origin to participate in an origin trial by doing the following. Step 1, choose an origin trial. Step 2, register the domain that you want that origin trial for. Step 3, get a token for the origin trial. And step 4, add the origin trial meta tag with your token to the website's head. With that, you can try out the features you'd like with your real users and provide valuable feedback on the implementation. So let's look at some of these new APIs in practice. While there are a number of these new and upcoming APIs, it's often useful to focus on a specific use case to provide clarity for their usefulness. Let's build an in-browser markdown editor, Fugu Edit 2.0. What does a markdown editor need besides being able to write markdown? Well, users are going to want to open files directly from their computers and save changes without needing to download a new file. Set the editor as their system default, so double-clicking a markdown file will open it up directly. See a preview of their rendered markdown and have that preview show up in the same place, even if they've got multiple screens attached, and have a distraction-free writing mode to really focus on their work. Let's see what new and upcoming capabilities can be leveraged to make this happen. When working with files, what do users want to do? They want to pick a file or folder from their device and open it directly, make changes to those files or folders and save those changes back directly, make new files and folders directly on their computer and save to them too. Prior to the File System Access API, web apps just couldn't really do this. Opening files required a file upload input hack, and saving changes required users to download them. Making new files wherever you want, forget about it. To use the File System Access API to open a file from within a user gesture like a button click event, you first capture the file handler from the File System Access's File Picker API. This will give you some basic information about the file. Next, using the file handler's getFile method, you get a special kind of blob called a file that includes some additional read-only properties like name and last modified date about the file. Then, finally, because it's a blob, use blob methods on it, like text, to get the content. To save changes back to a file, from a user gesture, you first use the file handler to create a file system writable file stream. Then make changes to that stream. This won't update the file in place. Instead, it typically creates a temporary file. Finally, when you're done making changes, close the stream, which moves the changes from temporary to permanent. The File System Access API lets you open files from within your app, but what about the other way around? Users want to set their favorite app as their default to open files with. The File Handling API, currently in Origin trial, lets web apps installed as PWAs do the following. Register as a file handler on the user's device, specifying supported MIME types and file extensions. You can even specify custom file icons for your supported extensions. And then, once registered, the installed PWA will show up as an option from the user's file system, allowing them to open the file directly from it. Supporting MIME types, extensions, and icons are declared in the site's web app manifest. Once set up, you need to handle the files that are being opened from the system. To do so, you first set a consumer for the app's launch queue. Then, if there are any files in the launch queue, they'll be presented as an array of file handlers to use. Use them to open the files. With multiple screens attached, users want apps that can spread out throughout them. Users may want to open a presentation on an external monitor, restore open Windows position to the screen it was on, or favor screens that support touch. With the multi-screen window placement API, you can do just that and more. This API is also a good example of how Origin trials can help inform an API's development. This API had an Origin trial running from Chrome 86 to 88, and based on feedback, had a number of its methods and properties changed, and will return to developer trial in Chrome 89 while updates are made for a second Origin trial. The code shown here reflects the updates being made to this API. With the multi-screen window placement API, a new interface, window.getScreens, is added that returns an interface with screens as a frozen array of attached screens. This standard screen interface is extended with isPrimary, isInternal, pointer types, and label properties, each describing additional information about the screen. There's also a live object, current screen, that corresponds to the current window.screen. The return interface also fires a change event that fires when the screen's array or current screen changes, but not attributes on the individual screens. Individual screens, either window.screen or a screen in the screens array, fire a change event when their attributes change. In addition to this, window.open can open windows outside of the current screen, and move to and resize to also let windows be moved outside of the current screen. Then finally, imagine this. You're in the kitchen making tacos. You've just finished prepping your ingredients, your hands are a mess, and you turn back to your tablet to read the next step. Disaster, the screen's gone blank. You now need to fumble around to get it back on while trying to keep your tablet from needing a bath. The Screen Wake Lock API is here for you and lets you prevent screens from dimming, sleeping, or locking, letting users start, stop, leave, and come back without worry. To start a screen lock API, or to start a screen wake lock, you request it from the navigator. Wake locks are automatically released when the window that created it is no longer visible. Say the tab gets switched away from. Capturing the request captures a wake lock sentinel, which describes what type it is and whether it's been released. You can add a release event listener that will fire when the lock is released. Once a sentinel is released, you need to request a new one to get a new wake lock. With a sentinel, you can also manually release the lock by calling its release method. Okay, that's a lot of APIs. Let's see what this looks like in action. So here we start by opening a markdown file from our file system. FuguEdit uses the file handling API to register as a file handler for markdown files. Next, we make some changes, and we hit the Save button. This uses the File System Access API to save changes back to the file we opened. Next, we open a distraction-free mode. This puts Fugu Edit full screen and initiates a wake lock to prevent the screen from falling asleep. We edit the file, hit Command-S, the standard Mac shortcut to save, which Fugu Edit has overwritten, to allow saving back with a File System Access API. The wake lock is released when we exit the screen. We close Fugu Edit. There we go. Then open the file back up again. And sure enough, our changes have stuck. Next, we open the preview mode. This looks to put the preview at 50% of the screen size of the primary display. Using a shared worker, changes in the editor are compiled and sent to the preview window in real time. Another save, another prompt because we've just reopened the file, and we're done. We have a full system editor that we can use just like any other editor we have on our computer. Do you want to try this yourself? Well, we have a code lab that you can use to try and build this functionality in a sample app. It's part of a series on building out progressive web apps that you can do independently or as part of this whole thing to add these capabilities to your own version of Fugu Edit. The link here, workshops.page.link/PWA05, empowering your PWA, will give you all of the, will send you to the code lab to add all these. And with that, I have a little bit of extra time, so I'm happy to take questions.
Hello, thank you. Let me just. Perfect. Thank you for the talk. That was really interesting. Let me see the chat if we've got any questions. Haven't got something in the chat. I've got a question actually. It's about web progressive apps. So currently you get to the website, it shows the little icon where you can download it and it becomes a web progressive app. Can you see them coming on the actual App Store or Play Store in the future?
Yes. So let me drop this link. I don't think I can drop it in chat. If one of y'all
we can share it. Yeah.
So yes, not only do I see them becoming available in app stores, they already are.
Okay.
So there is a tool called Bubble Wrap that you can use today to wrap your live progressive web app in an Android app container that can then be uploaded to the Play Store, and I think the Samsung Galaxy Store as well, and maybe the Windows Store. And that will take your progressive web app, wrap it in what's known as a trusted web activity. Basically, it's an Android app that only has one activity, and that activity is displaying a website. And then you can upload it to Play, and it works on Android Play. It also works on Chrome OS. There is even a developer trial right now, or actually an origin trial right now for an API called the Digital Goods API, which can be used for you to get access to Play Store in-app payments and app products. So you can comply with Play billing for your PWA. You can tap into Play billing and set up in-app payments for your PWA.
That's cool. That's really cool. So I'm guessing you've tried it. Have you? So any of the APIs that you mentioned can be used through that bubble wrap. Basically, there's any limitation or anything.
Correct. So the limitation on where these APIs are available is what version of Chrome they were launched with, or they launched with. So if a user is on a version of Chrome that's older than the API you want to use, you can't use it, or older than whatever browser version, you can't use it. But presuming that they're on whatever the most up-to-date version of these browsers are, yeah, you can use them directly in this. And there is a question in chat that kind of goes along with this. Are there security flaws with these APIs? So there is an article on web.dev. I will find the link and I'll post it in, that kind of explains how what the whole capabilities project is and how we do security review. And the short version is all of these APIs go under very strict sets of security reviews to ensure they both don't affect the security of going to a website and don't introduce new fingerprinting capabilities for people to come and kind of identify you. So any of these APIs that are being delivered go through that kind of rigorous security process and shouldn't open up security flaws. For instance, the file system access API, part of that spec is that you don't get persistent access to whatever files are granted. You get access for that browser session. So like you saw with PWA edit, when you close the app down and open it back up, I had to re-agree to save that file. The spec also actually prevents you from getting into system files. So like you couldn't edit on a Linux system like /user or accidentally delete like core operating system files. They're just not available as part of that file picker API per the spec. So security is a big important thing that the security review, a big important thing that these APIs go through.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have any?
I had a question. So, like these APIs are very native to Chromium, I believe, right?
So the APIs are being developed as open specs, and the project has contributions from Google and Microsoft and Intel and a lot of others. They tend to hit Chromium first because there are a lot of developers working on Chromium specifically, and the capabilities project often is directly contributing to Chromium. But that's not to say that they won't necessarily hit other operating or other browsers. For instance, I think Safari has implemented WebShare and maybe WebShare Target as well. I would need to double check on that. So it's like all web standards. It's like a browser by browser basis, but most of these are being delivered to Chromium, not Chrome, but Chromium first.
Okay, that's good to hear. So I think maybe the future will be the futuristic.
Yeah, and if any of these APIs are really important to you, and you really want to see them supported in browsers that aren't currently supported, go into those browsers issue queues, go into their positions on GitHub, go to the spec on GitHub. All these specs are being written on GitHub, and voice your support for them. The way that the web moves forward is by developers saying, this is something really important to us. We need this to be successful on the web. So go into other browsers issue queues, go into our issue queue, go into browsers issue queues, regardless of who they are, and tell them what you need to be successful, because that's how we learn what we need to build and try and build it and make you successful.
100%. Yeah. Quick question just before we move to the next speaker. So you mentioned the difference between the stages of the development of the API. So for something that has been developed and is finalized, is it the process of changing versions or something like that? How new things are getting? I'm not sure if I missed that on.
So there are 3 states that an API can be in. Developer trial, which means you can try them out usually by enabling experimental flags in like Chrome Beta, or for instance in Chrome Beta or Chrome Canary. And those are like still really being developed and not really ready to be used with production users. But there's something you can kind of try out. Once they've gotten to a stable enough place, we tend to graduate them to what's called an origin trial, where the interfaces may still change, but they're stable enough for developers to use with real users and provide feedback for. Usually for Chrome, origin trials run 3 versions. So if it started in Chrome 88, for instance, it'd run 88, 89, and 90. And you can use those in production with real users following the origin trial stuff that I mentioned. And over the course of that origin trial, the API interface may change. So it's not like an early launch mechanism. It really is like an experiment to provide or to gather feedback on the API. And as part of the Chrome's origin trial system, we will ask you to provide us feedback to extend your origin trial length. Once your origin trial ends, we want to gather that feedback. And then after that origin trial, we gather that feedback and then make a decision on whether this is something we should launch, whether we need to come back and change, or whether we just shelve it entirely. That's how Chrome's origin trial system works. So it's not really like a versioning thing. There isn't like version 1.0 and 2.0 and 3.0, and you'll have different version numbers in your API calls. It's just one API interface that may or may not change as the experiment goes on until we reach a stable place and it gets launched to stable.
So when it has graduated the origin trial and you have gathered all the feedback and it's shipped out, and is it another process after that you might change it a little bit, or?
Yeah. So the multi-screen window placement API is a good example. We built the developer trial version of it. We built an origin trial version of it. We ran the origin trial of it, and we got a lot of feedback that we took into account. And basically, instead of graduating it to a stable release, we took it back to developer trial and rewrote the interface and rewrote the things that come before specs are called explainers, which is like a one-page document that kind of explains the need for this API and provides some interfaces and some use cases. Rewrote the explainer, rewrote the interface. It's in developer trial now, and I think we're moving into origin trial soon. I think it has a new origin trial date. And we're going to run another origin trial with it. And we're going to gather feedback on this new origin trial. And based on that feedback, we might go back and do this whole thing again. So yeah, interfaces can absolutely change. They don't often change during an origin trial, although they can, but they might change after an origin trial. File system access, same thing. We ran an origin trial, we came back, we redid the API interface a little bit, and we ran another origin trial.
That's really useful. That's really interesting. Perfect, thank you. That was everything from me. I don't think we have any other questions from the audience. I think that's everything. Thank you very much for the talk. It was really interesting. We'll move on to the next speaker.
And I will get you the last set of links.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome.
So moving on to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Parag, and he's going to talk to us about next generation gamification with 3D. I'll bring Parag in. Hello, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Very good, thank you. So I'll share your screen now, and he's ready to go. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Hey everyone, good evening. This is Parag. I'll quickly, introduce myself. So I have a very diverse profile, I would say. I started my career as a designer, then moved to 3D animation, then moved to web designing, front-end engineering, became full stack developer, right now working in consulting firm for last 6 years, and working in IoT domain, Internet of Things domain. So it's kind of a, I would say, very diverse profile or experience that I'm having. So a couple of things, fun facts, bit of fun facts about myself. My work location, it's very, different. I've never worked on same location for longer time. I've been to, within India, I've been to like 4 or 5 different cities. In pandemic, it was fun for me. Every 2 months, I used to change the city for my work. Same goes for, the expertise that I'm holding, right? I know 3D modeling, I know animation, I know front-end development, I know variety of front-end frameworks, database, cloud infrastructure, graphic design, recently for last 2 years, 1.5 years, sorry, I've started working on core game development with C Sharp and Unity and the 3D tools. So that's a recent hobby that I'm working on. In order to keep myself up to date with technology trend, I like to participate a lot on variety of hackathons, because that's where you learn a lot. You also understand the ideas coming from people, and you are also challenging yourself to build something new. So every year, whenever I get chance, I participate in hackathon, and I won like many hackathons. A few key I have mentioned here. The first one is Yahoo Agency Hack. Now, this was from a digital agency only. This hackathon was only for digital agency. I have participated from my previous company, and we stood up third over there. Again, the experience is connected screens. Same thing we developed for Microsoft hackathon when they launched their platform. And we designed entire flipboard book, which is cross screen experience. Same application you can use for mobile, you can use for desktop. The good thing about that was we designed entire um, uh, Windows 8 user experience library using jQuery and jQuery mobile. I've constantly won a variety of other hackathons as well in Sapient and Deloitte recently. One thing to call out here is the Microsoft hackathon where I participated. That was world's largest hackathon. Around 3,000 plus people they have participated. We worked for more than over 48 hours, and for that, each and everyone who have participated, they have contributed to largest hackathon, and for that, we have received Guinness Book of World Record certificate. So yeah, that's little bit about me. We'll move on to next section, where I want to talk about few pillars of next gen trend of web application, right? HTML5, a variety of front end frameworks. These are all helping us in building complex front end applications. But when it comes to consumer experience or customer experience, the trend is moving towards adding more of effects or eye-catchy components, or have more interactions for our user, right? And that's where such libraries which provides you effects which helps you providing effects onto your web application. Example, VFX, or certain 3D elements, or you can interact with design itself, not the HTML component but design itself. So that is the new, I would say, new trend in web application. I'll start with a couple of examples and exactly show you what I mean by next gen trend. So let me just move on to few examples. So if you can look at this site, right, the background is just an effect. It's just a VFX. You can hover your cursor and see all the lines moving here and there, but the amount of experience it is giving to me as a customer or as a user of this website, it's phenomenal, right? I'm just in love with this entire effect. I understand, okay, there is something happening with this 99. I can scroll, I can read, but the first look of this site is very catchy for me, right? Now, unfortunately, this is just a banner. This is just a VFX which they have used to attract the customer, right? Now, how we can utilize this better? So this is one use. You can utilize VFX better for user catchiness. Another example I'm having is from IBM itself. So I'm just clicking on this site. They have some music. I just try to look that. Yep. All right. So now they have taken this entire technology to a new level, where this entire application it's interaction based, right? They are showing you the entire concept of cloud in a form of one diamond or one stone, and you can start interacting with this stone. You can pick and choose the component that you would like to use in a entire your cloud formation. For example, if you see this, what do you want to use? Do you want to use like power system? Yes, that's my priority. You can use IBM Z, you can use storage, right? Now this becomes your priority. You click on next, and there are some VFX effects, and again, boom, your entire plan is ready, right? Again, this is making it very easy for the user to interact, come up with their own choices, and again make it kind of a fun for the user, right? So this is the gamification. This is second use case. The third use case, we all have been using it, which is more towards product showcase. So I'll take an example of 3D a model walkthrough. So in this case, it's Kia car. This is entirely 3D. You can move around, and by the way, this is all on a web page, right? It's on Chrome. It's a website only. You don't need to like plug in entire any extra hardware, or you don't need gamification tool, right? It's just everything is running on your browser. You click on items, you go into interior, you see variety of things, right? You can come out, you can turn on, turn off the light, lot of things you can try out, right? So this is product walkthrough, right? Third use case. Now the last and pretty interesting, and which actually drives this entire innovation further, is in manufacturing domain, your factory factory walkthrough. We generally call it digital twin in IoT terminology, but this is where the experience, the challenge of making it more realistic and physical in nature comes to a play. So if you can look at this model, right, you can interact with variety of areas. You know what is going on within an area, what sort of inventory or devices they are having. You can go deeper into that. You can see the details of those inventory. Now on since I'm working on IoT, right, the most of the use cases that I've seen in IoT, it revolves around digital twin. And digital twin is nothing but a replica of your physical inventory, and you demonstrate how your digital twin is performing within your factory, right? So this is another great use case, and this is where we need to advance our front end knowledge and focus more on 3D or VFX and other items. So yeah, these are the four use cases, which I mean I've tried to like segregate in four different buckets, but definitely you can also use this for gamification. You can create your own front end games, and beyond that, you can use virtual reality, augmented reality, and take your entire experience to a next level. All right, coming back to our presentation. All right. When it comes to design such experience, right? Again, there are four major steps that any small to large, company or a group, they have to take. So first one is definitely concept design, and this is where you need to spend like a lot of time. Concept design is mainly a lot of paperwork. You need to come up with a wireframe design. You need to come up with an experience design. There has to be a storyboarding session. A lot of back and forth happens even on design, right? Just designing a VFX with that 99, it's not that easy, right? You need to come up with variety of options and think about why you are doing it, how user is going to interact with it. So interaction and lot of stuff is taking a play there. So concept design is very major part of this entire cycle. Now, after concept design, there are two steps which generally happens in parallel. Second one is 3D modeling, and third one is interaction design. Now, interaction design, we generally start with a prototyping. So though 3D model is not ready, we just use geometries like cube or sphere and design entire interaction to understand how the flow looks like, how the experience feels like. And meanwhile, 3D model is in a development. Once 3D model is developed, then again we need to integrate it in interaction design and make prototype a working experience. So that is why in sequence you need to first complete 3D model in order to develop your entire interaction experience. Now, once your experience is developed, that's where quality assurance team or A/B testing and other features come into picture. You'll need to really experience that entire outcome with variety of users to see how the flow is engaging the user, because that is where when it comes to providing experience, a lot of the prototypes generally fail, and that is why this iteration goes back to again concept design, and then you reiterate, you modify your interactions and again build the experience. So that's where it is a bit complex. It's not that easy. But yeah, I mean, after 2-3 iterations, definitely we'll be able to like reach there. Now, in order to make sure that our concept comes to a life, there are variety of tools available in market, so we don't have to worry about it. Let me just try to bucket it in three different segments. The first one is 3D modeling, right? 3D modeling is nothing but you take a cube or sphere and convert it into a table or a chair or an entire building or a human or any creature, right? Basically convert it into a model. Now, in order to do that, 3D Max, Maya, these two are very famous or popular 3D softwares available. Both are owned by Autodesk now. Third one is Houdini, which is better for fluid simulation. Then we have Blender, which is an open source 3D platform. Now, this four are primarily used for modeling, for texture painting, as in applying certain images on top of our 3D model. Substance Painter is widely popular and used, texture painting tool. This is by Adobe. Once your 3D model, texture, everything is done, for gamification or developing entire experience, you can either use Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is mostly focusing on high-end devices like game consoles and other. Unity is another very popular tool which you can use for not only for desktop or gaming devices, but also for your web. You can also use it for your mobile application development and others. On front end side, there are 10 or 15 variety of tools available, but most popular are Babylon.js, Game Maker Studio 2, and 3JS. Right now, if you have to pick and choose right from this list, my personal preference would be to go with Blender and 3JS. The reason for this two is it's pretty simple, right? First of all, both of them they are free tools, right? Both are like open source. The community support is pretty good for both of them. What else? You can have plenty of documentation, plenty of demos available on YouTube or on their own site for Blender as well as 3JS. So that's for one thing. Now, if I have to like pick and choose on a particular features, so if I talk about 3JS, it is best suitable lightweight JavaScript library for WebGL, right? It is compatible with variety of front-end frameworks like Angular, React, whatever you can choose. It supports VFX, it supports augmented reality, and you can also develop HTML5 based games, right? Same goes for Blender. Blender is open source. It supports scripting. It supports Shader graph creation. You can create your own custom shaders, which is kind of template for your material. It also helps you designing your own custom texture. It gives you texture painting ability as well. You can use Surface or your tablet to start sketching your material on top of your geometry. So these are a couple of features, and that is why I would choose Blender and 3js. So let me just quickly show you the 3js library website itself. So on 3js, right, they have plenty of documentation examples available on the homepage itself. You can see variety of applications which has already used 3js, and you can see companies like not companies but clients like NASA and others using 3js widely for demos and other purpose. Yep. So documentations are again pretty easy and simple. You can just start going through that. You can understand what code you need to write to perform what operation. Everything is given in detail. There are plenty of examples available, starting from clothing to importing 3D material, animations, characterization, and the others. Right. So it's pretty easy. You can go through a variety of example. You can search and definitely will find the answer. All right. So let me go back to the deck. All right. Now let me show you one quick example of how I use this 3js and HTML5 to convert entire digital experience into a fun game along with a physical experience. So imagine if you are going into a car showroom, you get a printed brochure to see how many models or colors and other stuff are available. But what if you can experience that car? What if you can experience how that car feels like, even though that car is not available on that particular showroom, right? So this is a quick walkthrough of one POC that we built as part of a hackathon. So I'm just playing the video.
Hello, you are near a virtual car experience kiosk. Scan the QR code to experience our new arrivals. Its excellent exterior, muscular look, and awesome metallic color is beyond comparison.
Yeah. So this was all in like 48 hours. We had only one front-end developer, one Node.js developer, and one designer, right? And that's how easy 3JS is, right? Now let's talk a little bit about 3JS. Before we jump onto the code and how you can use it, I would like to give you a quick walkthrough of the elements that we are having in 3JS. And to simplify it, let's start comparing this with like a movie making, right? We are making a movie. Now canvas, its first element in which our entire rendering will happen. Now let's consider canvas as our theater screen, right? You have IMAX, you have 70 mm screen. So the sizes may vary. You can have a smaller canvas in mobile, you can have bigger canvas in iPad, and you can have like much bigger, wider canvas on MacBook or other bigger screen, right? Now, so the first element is canvas. Now, anything that you want to render on canvas, you'll need to use renderer. Now, renderer is a projector which controls the speed of reel, how frequently you wanna project on a canvas, right? If the canvas dimension changes, right? What actions you will need to perform and all those stuff. Now, this is just projecting your movie. Next element is scene itself. Now, scene is nothing but the set of the movie. Whenever we have to shoot a movie, we organize certain elements in a closed room. So consider that set as a scene. Scene has certain features like in a scene we can add background color, we can add fog, we can add environment, we can also sometimes add post processing. Now this all concept is common across all 3D gamification, not only 3JS, but also if you use Unity, it's the same concept. In renderer, you put your scene. You need a camera. Camera can be perspective or orthographic, based on how you want to project your view. So you can pick and choose the camera. Camera has to be associated with a scene. Scene and camera both goes into a renderer. In scene, now next thing you will need to organize on your set is lights, right? You need a variety of lights. You need spotlight, you need directional light, you need omni lights and other stuff, right? So you will have to put a light. If you don't put a light, your entire set is just dark. You won't be able to see anything, even though it is getting rendered. Now, mesh is kind of a new word, which is in order to explain with movie making. Imagine the objects that we have to put on our set, right? It can be chair, it can be table, it can be actors or models, right? Whatever we have on the set, all these are mesh. Now, mesh are basically a combination of geometry and material. Geometry is the base structure of our mesh, as in for example, if it's a table, right? You have a rectangle mesh, then you have pillars, which are again four rectangle mesh, and then you have material. So if your table is made of wood, you need to create a material which displays your mesh as a wood. You can apply image on your material, you can apply transparency, glossiness, and all other variety of effects. Attach it to your 3D object, and boom, your table is ready. So material has to be associated with mesh. And then finally, the geometry itself. Geometry is the basically boxes that you have assigned to mesh. The lower level of geometry is vertices or face itself. Vertices are nothing but the dots, which creates entire geometry. Three dots creates a triangle. Four dots creates a rectangle or a square. We call it a face, and multiple face creates a model, right? A geometry. So that's how this entire hierarchy is generated in any 3D tool, I would say. Not only 3JS, but everywhere it's same. All right. This I think we have covered. So let's talk about where you can use 3JS, right? I have personally used 3JS on jQuery, AngularJS, not the recent one, Angular 1.8 to React.js, Vue.js, right? And right now we are going to talk a little bit about how we can use 3JS in Vue.js, because Vue.js is a recent framework, and I have kind of recently worked on Vue.js. So I have some demos ready. But the good thing about 3JS is that entire approach of integrating 3JS with any front-end framework is almost same. there is a master function which you need to call, and that master function gets called at every frame which is getting rendered. And that's how generally all 3D game engines, they render their game. It's basically on frame, right? Each and every frame your entire code is getting executed. Better performance, if your system is having better performance, better memory or CPU, your performance of your application would be faster. And that is why the optimization in this entire gamification is much more needed. You cannot have like multiple loops and very crazy code running in your function, right? It will slow down your entire frame rate. But yeah, it's for a complex gaming. We'll reach to it in most probably in upcoming sessions. But right now we are going to just talk about how you can leverage 3JS to develop a quick prototype. All right. So let's understand Vue.js, right? Since we are going to integrate 3JS with Vue.js. Folks who are new to Vue.js, it's pretty simple. Who have worked on React.js, for them this will sound like pretty easy concept. So all you need to start Vue.js is a wrapper, which is your application. You need to define an app element. Within your application, you will need to use router. A router can load variety of components. You can have 7 components loaded in one page. You can have one component loaded in one page, but the page transition and everything will be handled by router. The store plays a key role here. So store is nothing but a shared state where you can store your variables. You can store your actions, right? And all the components, they are having access to shared state store, and each and every component will be able to call the functions or variables that you have stored within the store itself, right? Now let's see the code. Let me just move to yep. All right. Okay. So let me just quickly talk about the folder structure here. So we have 2 components, viewport and control panel. And let me just hide sample that I've just added. Then we have variety of views, about and home. You can change the view using router. And app.view, this is your master application where we have created an app. And within an app, we have called this 2 component, panel and viewport. Right now, these 2 components are primarily associated with our 3JS demo. And I've also called viewport and control panel. I've imported these 2 components and I've renamed them as viewport and panel, and those 2 tags I'm applying here, right? Now let's have a look at control panel. All right. So this is my control panel template. Then I have, I'm using certain methods here: app manipulation, reset camera position, toggle axis. So, and I'm actually calling this from my template itself. So you can see here in my template, I have added a button, and on button click, I am resetting the camera, right? Now, before we jump onto the store, let me show you the application. All right. So this is the application for which I was showing you the code. So there are a lot of triangles, not triangles actually, pyramid, randomly placed. We have 3 axes here, X, Y, and Z, with 3 different color, green, red, and blue. Using mouse, I can rotate and move this entire scene. I can zoom in, zoom out with scroll, right? And if you look at the back, this entire scene is getting into a fog. So you won't have much visibility for the elements which are far away. And there is a gray background color, right? And this is my panel. Controls is my panel, where I can see camera position. I have 2 selection, pyramid, access control, and I have reset camera. All right. Now let's look at the code. So this is the control panel where I have two checkbox. I'm highlighting that, right? Pyramid access control, right? On click, I am calling this function toggle access lines, which I have defined in component itself in the script. And what this is doing is this is calling hide access lines. Now, here is the trick, right? All these functions that you are seeing, which my component is calling, these functions are getting extracted from my store, right? So I've defined all these functions in the store. Let me just open the store file, store.js. All right. Now in store, if you see, there are getter and setter, right? There is initialize, renderer, initialize camera. All these functions are there. Then we also have reset camera rotation, reset camera position, hide access lines. Now, if you look into this control panel code, you will see hide access lines. It's getting extracted from store, and that function is getting called from the component itself, right? Now, this is how control panel is basically calling a function from store. All right. Now, this is fine. This is just how Vue.js works. Let's talk about how Three.js is getting utilized here. So first of all, in Vue.js, the Three.js component is being imported, right? So 3-full is the library, which this demo is basically fetching the necessary components from. Then we have variety of components getting extracted from Three.js file itself. So we need scene, we need trackball control. Trackball control are basically for zoom and pan and other operations. Perspective camera, we need definitely we need a camera. We need WebGL renderer, color, and variety of other components that we need. Right now, you will get this list from Three.js site itself. You can go through the documentation. I'm not going to go too deep into this one, but one thing which we will need to understand is how the rendering of our canvas is happening in any framework, right? Not only Vue.js, in any framework, and that concept remains same. So here you see the width and height and all those variety of components, attributes are being stored into Vue.js store. We have pyramids array, we have access lines array, right? We also have renderer, scene, and camera. Now these three, renderer, scene, and camera, these three are Three.js objects, which we are storing in a state because we want to execute them from any component, right, or any function. That is why we have stored it in a state. Now, look at the initialize scene function, right? Now, this is a method, initialize scene, which is primarily, taking the scene from Three.js, new scene, and assign it into a state. So all the state variables we are filling in. Right now it is null. We are filling it with Three.js scene, camera with Three.js camera, and renderer, which is Three.js renderer, right? So in initialize scene, we are assigning a scene. We are adding a background color to that scene, the gray color that you have seen, which is CCC. Then there is a fog, right, which we have already seen. Now this is how you can initialize your scene. You can add n number of features to this one. You can change the color and all sort of stuff. Second thing we'll need to do is set up geometry. Now we have seen lot of the pyramids being added. Now see, the funny thing here is they have not used pyramid or cube or anything. They have used cylinder geometry. Now, for any cylinder, if you reduce their sides to only 4, which is 4 here, your cylinder will become a square or a cube, right? Because you have only 4 sides. So that's what the developer has done here. They have just used 4 sides. Rest is height and width, and so this is like top height with a 0. This is bottom width, which is 10, and this is height, which is 30. And then you have, four sides, and this one for top and bottom, right? And then you have material. In material, you can assign color. This is pure white color. Flat shading is applied. Flat shading is basically whenever you have a corner, and if you redirect the light, that entire face will get equal amount of light, right? You won't see the soft shading between two faces. So there you won't see any corner if your flat shading is off. If you are applying flat shading, you will be able to see the corners. Now see, this is the trick. There are 500 random 500 geometries placed at random location, random XYZ position within our entire scene, right? And this update matrix is basically, you wanna individually update the XYZ position of any mesh. So these are like default functions that you need to apply. And this is the funny part, right? Till now, whatever we have done here, we have created scene, we have created background, we have created 3D geometry, we have assigned it into a mesh. All this thing is fine, but here we are pushing it into a JavaScript array, right? So the funny thing about this entire 3JS library is each and everything is just an object, right? Be it 3D or not. So you can easily push your entire 3D object into an array, right? So this is what they have done. So now, whenever you will access pyramid, you will be able to access all the 3D objects placed in your view within this array itself. Now, still till this line, our renderer is not going to render anything because we have just defined everything. All we need to do is insert this into a scene, right? We have created all table, chair, all materials outside of our set. Now we have to bring it into our set. So this line is very important. Well, a lot of developers, they generally forget and they're like, oh, dude, this is not appearing. But you just need to add each and every items from your array into your scene, right? Now this is done. Now, if you will run your code, you will be able to see geometries appearing, but you won't be able to see the color of your geometry because you have not added the lights, and for which we need to add the lights, right? You can add 1 or 2 or n number of lights. If you want to apply like variety of colors at different angle, you can play around with it. Then you can add some random extra geometry, whatever you want to do. In this case, the developer, they have added like XYZ axis, which we have seen. And see, basically they have created line. They have assigned color, right? One is red, one is green, one is blue. And again, they have added this entire axis to scene, right? So now axis will also appear, and that's all. So this function that you see, initialize scene, it is adding random triangles, and it is also adding line along with colors and fog and everything into your scene. Now the beauty of this is this function, right? You need to call it at every frame, right? And that is why you should not have very complex logic in this function. The reason why you need to do it is because your canvas renders at every frame in order to show any motion. Otherwise, it's just a painting. You have painted it once, done. Even if you are trying to repaint something on top of it, until and unless you clear the canvas, you won't be able to, your next scene won't be appearing there. And that is why not only in 3JS, all the gaming platform, they render your view at every frame. Now, here in this case, 3JS gives us flexibility to optimize our load on WebGL, because this entire 3JS 3D concept on canvas runs on WebGL. And for us to optimize that, there are a variety of ways. So one good thing I liked about this demo is the developer, he has done like great, I would say, he's put a great effort in optimizing as much as he could. So for example, this initialize scene, right, where you are just placing your objects, developer has called it only once, right? Now initialize scene, this is getting called only once on init. Whenever you are initializing your component, the initialize scene function is getting called, right? Now this line that you are seeing, right, see renderer.render scene and camera, right? This is the line which is actually adding our entire scene and camera together and generating a 3D view out of a 2D canvas, right? So this is very important. This has to be at the end once your entire like code and everything is getting executed. What this does is this clears your existing painting on canvas and re-renders entire new painting, right? So this line is very important. We'll need to call this whenever we are making any change into our 3D environment, and that is why this event listener on change, right? That is why this line is again getting called here. Now this change is nothing but whenever there is any change happening on the controls of your of this demo. Now I'll go back to this particular demo. So right hand side you can see the controls. Any change happening here, I'm deselecting pyramid, right? Selecting pyramids again, deselecting axis. This is the change. So on any change, this add event listener will be called, this render function will be called again, and respective function on the change which we have already seen in control panel, which functions are getting called by store, those functions will be called, right? So this is the cycle. You interact with your control panel, then that function from control panel itself is getting called in store. Now in this case, hide access lines. This function is here. What it does is it is removing the state access lines and calling the render function again, right? Now there are few other functions where the render function is not getting called and for which the developer has put this particular line. Now where do you need this change function to trigger is your browser resize, your canvas size is changing and all those areas, right? Because whenever your canvas size changes, your canvas needs to re-render, right? Otherwise you will still see the old image stressed out and your entire experience will be gone. So that is why you need to add the event listener itself. Now two things we have seen here. First one, how to render our entire view on 3D, right? This camera control, everything is done. Second thing we have seen is how you can control your entire rendering with HTML interaction. So these are all HTML elements using which you can interact and you can show and hide your variety of things. But what if I have to interact directly on the canvas itself, right? What if I want to click this particular triangle, right? So let me just show you those demos, right? So this is one. I can select any cube, right? My cursor is able to change the color of any cube. Now how this is possible? So for this 3JS or again any 3D game engine or the concept within 3D itself is they call it ray casting. Now ray casting, it's a pretty simple concept. Imagine a ray appearing from the point where you are interacting till the end of your entire 3D scene. So if I zoom into this particular image, you see a ray is appearing from the viewer's end, right? And it is going to an element, crossing that element, going beyond that, right? Now this interaction, catching this interaction is very easy. So right hand side, if you can see the code, right? All we'll need to do is introduce the raycaster, and then in our render function or the function which we are repeatedly calling, right? Init or wherever it is, all we need to do is identify the intersection between raycast and the objects. So here, if you focus on this particular line, intersect raycaster dot intersect objects scene dot children. This will give us entire list of objects where our raycaster is interacting, right? So this is how we can get where our raycaster is interacting with 3D object itself on the canvas, and start designing our experience around that. Now let me show you one more example of how this entire only 3D rendering that we have used to generate a gamification. And this is my pet project, which I've added and I worked on like 3 years back and implemented in a mall in Bangalore. And this was fun experience. So let me just show that to you. Oh, sorry.
Ночь нежно расшатанными нервами. Половина первого, незнакомый бульвар. Не спеша блуждаем лабиринтами, литрами и пинтами заливаем пожар.
All right. So yep, this entire experience I was able to design within a week's time. And again, same technology. I use Node.js, I use React.js, and it was device-to-device communication using Socket.io. And that's the power, right? The moment you touch a button here, since your entire rendering is happening on each and every frame, the interaction was so real time that whenever I move my mobile, from or even change a degree of access, the kite which was linked to this phone was also changing its direction. So that's how I was able to put this entire experience to life. All right. Yep. So let's talk about animation, and this is the last topic on 3JS. Now, till this time, all we learned is how we can integrate 3D model and basic geometry and other stuff, how we can interact with it. But what if we need to add animation, right? Let me show you one example. So this is an animation example by 3JS itself. You have a well-designed 3D model. You have this person walking. Let's just pause the animation, play the animation, change the motion, right? Right? How we can add the animation. Now, unfortunately, any gamification software, they don't give you flexibility of modify your 3D model, right? You cannot, for example, you cannot change the polygon. You cannot assign extra geometry within a geometry. You cannot blend in variety of geometry. So it's very hard for us to create animation within the gamification platform itself. But the good thing is, all gamification platforms, they allow you to import animation files. Now, for which, let me just quickly take you guys to Blender. So this is the Blender, which is again open source. You can download it from blender.org. Simple, very easy. You see like a lot of tabs here. Layout, modeling, sculpting. It also helps you with UV editing, texture painting, shading. Everything is there. So what generally we do is we design our 3D model on Blender, then we apply animation here, right, in animation frame. It's again pretty easy. You also get some animations readily available. Select object, animate from point A to point B. You can see the keyframe, right? All these things you should be able to do. I'm just randomly showing you how animation is pretty easy in Blender. So apply the animation here, and then what you'll need to do is export this entire animation in with your 3D model. So we can export it in FBX, in GLTF. My personal preferences are GLTF or FBX because it gives you seamless animation exported along with your 3D model. It can also export 3D texture along with it. So you can choose either of this extension of 3D model itself, which will have 3D animation embedded, and within 3JS, right? Sorry. Within 3JS, it's very easy to import any animation. So we can simply import the 3D models using either of these 3JS importer. We can use object loader for OBJ file. We can use FBX loader. We can use GLTF loader. And once we import this loader, all we need to do is identify the animation clip, name the animation clip, and we can use .play or .pause. So I just show you that code. Right. So this is the code for the demo that we are seeing. They have used GLTF loader, right? And they have imported entire GLTF file from GLTF loader itself, right? Loader dot load this file, and then they have extracted the animation clips, right? So you can do it using your model.animations, use animation mixer, and from that you can take the clip, right? You can clip animation. I mean, they have three animations embedded, so they have taken 3 clips: idle action, walk action, and run action, and you can do animation.play, animation.stop, right? Action.play, action.stop. So this is how you can import animation. And yeah, that's all for today. I think we have covered a lot. But if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer right now, or even feel free to reach out to me on my Gmail, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Right?
Thank you. That was really good. I think we have a couple of questions. Can you see the question? So
processing 3 models, yeah, interactive elements will require huge amount of resources. How can we utilize such elements on page without killing performance? That's a good question. So there are a few performance tricks. So first one, as I mentioned, do not re-render your canvas without any need. Second thing is, do not put crazy loops in your function itself. The major problem you will see if you try to load heavy 3D model. But as per my recent experience, we have loaded 3D model with texture, which had around 3 lakh vertices, and the file size itself was 55 MB, and we did not face any issue even on tablet, Samsung tablet, Android tablet. I'm not talking about iPad. In iPad, the performance will be much more better. So in that way, WebGL is much more efficient. You should not see issues with 3D model or texture. But on your programming, definitely make sure we use re-rendering as less as possible.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
I think that was the
questions?
last of the questions, and
Yeah.
I think we can conclude the talk for you. Thanks, Parag. Thanks for joining us today, and that was really interesting talk.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Have a good day. Bye. So that was the last talk for today. So we just want to say thank you, everyone, from our side. We'd like to thank the speakers and the audience and everyone that was with us today. Just don't forget to look up your local Google developer group. You can do that on this website, and you can find if you have one in your city. And when things are starting to go back to in person, you can attend it in person as well, but there's always online until then. I think that's everything from me. Anything from you, Mark?
I think that would be all. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.